What famous place is not worth visiting? Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts. Despite all the rage, it's still just a rock in a cage. According to this thread, never go to Egypt, Hollywood, and eBay. Noted. Langfawilgwingal Godger each windrob will land to Silio Gogo Gotch in Wales, nothing there, except an Edinburgh Wallen Mills shop. Which is just silly as Edinburgh is nearly 300 miles away. Man. I went there to take a photo by the train station sign. I got a photo by the train station sign. The whole experience was exactly what I expected, and I was completely whelmed. Plymouth Rock. I don't know how famous it really is outside of New England, but it's a rock that marks where the Pilgrims supposedly first landed in Massachusetts. It is quite literally just a medium-sized rock with 1620 carved in it, but every elementary school teacher around Massachusetts at least hypes it up for the class field trip to see a literal rock that is not big, impressive, or really historically relevant. Driving an hour on a bus to see this was the most anticlimactic thing, and I would not particularly recommend. I'm pretty sure every field trip to Plymouth Rock also went to Plymouth Patuxet Museum, aka Plymouth Plantation Historical Reenactment Village thingy, which was infinitely cooler than the rock, though the appeal of the rock has always been all the tourist shops nearby you could go and buy those honey straws and rock candy from, which I'm pretty sure is the end goal of all elementary school field trips anyways. No? I spent a large amount of my childhood as one of the Wampanoag people on the plantation. I have so many great memories of learning real historical skills from the elders and getting to connect with a heritage that was at least similar to mine. I'm Navajo, not Wampanoag, but it was the closest place for the foster system to send me to connect with other indigenous people. Hollywood. It's seedy and disappointing. It's full of entire industries, cough Scientology cough, that take advantage of starry-eyed twits. Land's End, UK. Heralded as the 4th most disappointing attraction in the UK. It's not even disappointing enough to win an award. Edit. I mean the landmark in Cornwall, not a clothing store. D-Remy. It's not even the real thing. It was brought there just to have something symbolic to look at, but no one has any clue where the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth. It wasn't even their first landing. They landed in Cape Cod and found it easier to set up camp in Plymouth. Hi, I'm in Plymouth, so Plymouth 1 if you will. The Mayflower Steps are even more disappointing. The actual Mayflower Steps are in the Admiral McBride pub on the other side of the road. I love seeing American tourists looking at the fake steps and being amazed, lol. Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's a sidewalk, and outside of maybe big events, where they may clean the ones around where photos may be taken, it otherwise is just covered in dirt from people's shoes, and some are barely legible because they haven't been cleaned in ages. Haha, this is the answer for sure. Every time I'm in LA and someone wants to go, I'm like, look, whatever's in your head, keep that image, it's just better. I promise. That being said, walking it and finding stars is kinda fun if you have to walk that street anyways. Like, it's a fun street to walk, just a terrible place to have as a destination. My recommendation to anyone who wants to see the Walk of Fame during their visit: make it a stopover. Your destination should be something nearby. Personally, I'm a fan of getting a ticket at the Chinese theater. If you are a movie person, see something on its opening weekend. The theater will be full of film buffs who all are into whatever genre movie it is. You will have a great time. The energy is palpable. After that, go for a stroll down the Walk of Fame to stretch your legs and look around. The entire experience will be much more positive if you see it as a simple sight rather than a destination unto itself. In 3rd grade, a meteor crashed in the backyard of a kid's house in my neighborhood. He talked about it every day at school, and said people weren't allowed to see, because NASA was collecting samples. A few days later he said we could go see, but everyone had to pay $5. Me and a few friends paid him, and went over his house later that day. When we got to the backyard we saw a 3-foot deep hole that was clearly dug by a shovel. We called him out on it, and he said something like, "That's where it landed, but the scientists dug around it with shovels to take samples." Worst $5 I've ever spent. I have no idea where you are nowadays, but fuck you, Benji. In 3rd grade, a meteor crashed in the backyard of a kid's house in my neighborhood. He talked about it every day at school, and said people weren't allowed to see, because NASA was collecting samples. A few days later he said we could go see, but everyone had to pay $5. Me and a few friends paid him, and went over his house later that day. When we got to the backyard we saw a 3-foot deep hole that was clearly dug by a shovel. We called him out on it, and he said something like, "That's where it landed, but the scientists dug around it with shovels to take samples." Worst $5 I've ever spent. I have no idea where you are nowadays, but fuck you, Benji.